Hey guys. Yeah, let's try to redo this. Because when I got 4 minutes into doing the original of this, my mom called up and talked to me for about 20 minutes. Yeah, she was basically venting about stuff that happened at work. And that's about it. She just vented, you know, for about 20 minutes. And at least I now know where one of my sisters gets her love to be very talkative at night from. And Lord, forgive me for saying that. In your name I pray, amen. I don't mean any harm by that, God. Please forgive me. In your name I pray, amen. But like I said, at least I now know where my sister gets it from. But the reason I came on here is because I wanted to talk a little bit of wrestling. And I want to talk about two things related to wrestling. Of course, what's going on in WWE right now as far as storylines go, and what's going on with the wrestling video game world. And I'm going to start off with that. First of all, in case anybody's wondering, yes, I will be picking up WWE 2K19. It's kind of a tradition for me, just to pick up the latest version. Even though people pretty much say it's just an updated version of what you've gotten before, which I do agree. I do agree with, and that and I feel basically if WWE is going to do that with 2K, even during the treacherous waves and waters they've been going through with each other, I say basically if WWE is going to do that, they might as well just do one game and just do an annual, quarterly updates with it, and along with free DLC. As well as, like I say, just do free quarterly updates on the roster, like add in new members and stuff like that, championships. You get the idea. I mean, take a page out of what NetherRealms has done with the Injustice series, mostly Injustice 2, and what they've done with the Mortal Kombat series, and even what Capcom is doing with Street Fighter right now, and that's just updating the games that they have with new characters, new patches, new arenas, new venues, places things like that. But that's not so yeah, if WWE is going to do that, stick with 2K, they might as well do something like that. Even though they say by 2K20, it's supposed to be a lot better. Like it's going to be a huge revamp, a huge overhaul on the series, and it's going to be something that's been long overdue. Well, let's hope they're right about that. Second of all, basically, I want to talk about File Pro World, which is the game that just came out today. It is the latest series, or latest edition in the File Pro Wrestling World series, or File Pro Wrestling series, File Pro Wrestling World. This new one is basically been more hyped up due to the fact that it includes the involvement or has the inclusion of the roster of New Japan. So if you're a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, IWGP, this pretty much has what you want. The only difference though with Fire Pro Wrestling and what you get with two WWE games is the Fire Pro Wrestling series seems more like an 8-bit or mainly a 16 to 32-bit game on a system meant for a current generation. And I can understand it's a throwback to how wrestling games at a time used to be fun. I get that. I get that. It's a throwback to when games used to be fun and everything. And like I said, I totally get that. I totally, understand that. So I get it, and I totally understand it. The other thing that makes Fire Pro Wrestling, the series, as well as I guess now Fire Pro Wrestling World, the newest installment, is not just the fact that you got the addition of the New Japan roster, but you also, along with the various factions involved, like, Los Albonitas, Chaos, Bullet Club, you name it. Not just the inclusion of those groups, but the thing that's made Pro Wrestling World stand out, Fire Pro Wrestling, the series as well as now the world, Fire Pro Wrestling World stand out, is the various match types you can do. The various match types that I'm talking about are not just like the kind you find in WWE, but we're talking like exploding matches, like exploding bomb matches, barbed wire matches, death matches kind of deal. You get all those kind of variety types, which I think is pretty cool. So the question everybody has is, will I be picking it up? And that is a good question, and I'm thinking about it, because if there's one thing I can give CCL, the people behind CAW Champions League, Destiny Championship Alliance, and all of them, is when they want to kind of tell a story about a rivalry with some of their roster members, whether they're original characters of their own or they're based on fictional characters from anime or whatever, and they want to basically have a match, and basically they want to have a match that culminates in possibly finality in that rivalry. Fire Pro Wrestling gives them that option, because they can not only create the character in WWE 2K, but they can create the character somewhat a resemblance of this character in Fire Pro Wrestling, and they can use the various match types there to go completely bonkers, if you will, to really take it to that next level and tell a story. So I might be thinking about doing that. Should I get Fire Pro Wrestling League or Fire Pro Wrestling World? I'm thinking I might do that. So yeah, I probably will be getting it. And the way I'm probably going to play it is maybe I might just, like I said, I might just do various match types as I do them. And this might be a good testing for me down the line if I want to take a page of what other leagues have done. In fact, like I said, one of the most talked about rivalries that CCL and DCA had that culminated in a match of finality was Nadi and Revi, who ironically I team up together in my league. And that's kind of the thing about my league. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but what I've done is I take the rivalries that are intense, like Juri and Sakura, the girl from the world You Want to Be the Strongest, as well as Nadi and Revi, and I use the old concept of, hey, better rivals make better teammates, or make a good team, or whatever. So that's what I've gone with. But anyway, am I going to get Fire Pro Wrestling World and try to incorporate that into what I do with my league? Most definitely I'm going to get the game, but it's going to probably take time before I incorporate it into my league. I have to get 2K19 first, put the roster together there as well, and see where we go from that. It's going to be really interesting to see how things translate, but I'll just have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, last thing I want to talk about is I'm looking at my percentage here. I got 25% remaining here. Last thing I want to talk about is, once again, WWE just doesn't seem to understand what they're doing. Now, I don't know if WWE does this on purpose, if they do it just to troll us or to teach us a lesson. But last night they decided that, hey, we're going to make you like Roman Reigns one way or another. And the way they did it was essentially, I guess, turning Braun Strowman heel and aligning him with Ziggler and McIntyre. Why would you do that? Why would you go and do that? And I guess we'll never really find out the answer to that. Like I said, I guess we'll never really find out the answer, because of the fact that basically we may not get an answer till next week. But yeah, Braun Strowman, I guess, turned heel, joined up with Ziggler and McIntyre. I guess if you can't get the Wyatt family together, you're going to have to go with this thing. But the question is, why would you do that? Are you that desperate? And this kind of brings me to something else that I truly believe is the problem with WWE. I think Vince McMahon, and I tried to mention this to Deluxe Man, but I think Vince McMahon and his writers, but mostly Vince himself, and God forgive me for saying this, I think Vince's mentality is still stuck in the 1980s and early 90s. He thinks he still has that mentality. It's like as he gets older, and God forgive me for saying this. It's like his memory starts to recede back to what put the company on the map in the first place, and that was the golden age of the 80s and the early 90s. And if that's the case, Vince, if that's your mentality, then you need to pass the torch to Paul Levesque, Triple H, and your daughter and your son. Because this ain't working. This ain't working. I mean, first of all, you sign off with Becky Lynch becoming a heel, and then you sign off on Braun Strowman being a heel because you want to play favorites. You want to basically play babyface with those that people don't want to see as babyfaces. They'd rather see them as heels. But I guess your mentality is, well, we could turn him heel, but then people will like him. Okay, Vince, that's your mentality, fine. But this is stupid. You know, it's no wonder people would rather be watching a CAW League match on live stream, if you will, on YouTube or on Twitch instead of watching what you're doing. Heck, people would rather watch Triple Mania over again, Triple Mania 26, which so far from what I've seen looks good, or turned out good, than over what's going on with Raw. But again, it's also that mentality of, I think, being stuck in the 80s, having his memory receding back to the 80s as he gets older. And God, no offense when I say this, but I think that's what's happening. The older he gets, the more his memory starts to recede back to the 80s, to when the WWE got put on the map with the good versus the evil kind of thing. But also there's that mentality to where the best heels are foreign heels. And if that's why Becky got turned heel was because she's Irish, which, I don't know, you are, Vince, but because she's actually from Ireland or raised in that area or Scotland, whatever, that the best way to portray her is to be a heel. Then again, Vince, you don't have your priorities straight. WWE needs to get them straight. Because just because someone comes from another country and hails from another country doesn't mean necessarily they should be heels. It means that you work with what the fans want you to work with, and that is basically, they like a character as a babyface, let them be a babyface. So, yeah, WWE, I think your writing, I think the mentality behind your creativeness either needs to step back and let a fresh mind take over, or he needs to basically pass the torch. Because no offense, Vince, and God, I don't mean any harm in saying this. This is not the 80s. As much as a lot of us are nostalgic for the 80s and the 90s, even we're smart enough to realize that something like this does not work. But that's all I'm going to say, guys. Let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later. I got to get some lights on in this house. It's getting dark now.